Welcome to Vision Plus, a program featuring a positive outlook, dealing with everyday situations of marriage, children, and business. Believing Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. Teacher, author, speaker, delighting audiences from New York to Sacramento with a heart and message for the people today. Bonnie would like to remind you of the 800 number on the screen. Please feel free to call at any time throughout the broadcast and share your concerns. Leave your prayer request and someone will pray with you. And now, teacher, author, and speaker, Bonnie.
Thank you so much, Mr. Peters, and thank you for the invitation to come back to Huntsville. And I grew up here. As a matter of fact, I'm a 1976 graduate of Butler High School. And I graduated from Alabama A&M in 1980. My parents both live here. Some of you may know my father. He's a retired colonel, retired senior exec from NASA, Colonel E.C. Smith. And I'm happy to have with me this is not my son, that is my brother. So I'm only 5 years his senior. So. And the young lady to the left, that is not my wife, that is my daughter. You see the resemblance, I'm sure. But I thank you for coming, and I appreciate, again, the opportunity to come and share some things with you, a message that God has given me, how we can reignite America's passion for liberty and save our beloved republic. Let me ask you a question. By show of hands, how many of you are sick and tired of being called a racist and you know you're not one? By show of hands, how many of you are sick and tired of being called Uncle Tom or sellout and you know you're not one? What I want to do for the next 18 minutes that I have left is to not only enlighten you, but to empower you with a strategy how we can trump the race car forever, make Barack Obama one-term president, and get this nation back toward the principle of our founding fathers. We can trump this race car. And let me go ahead and do this now, because I'll forget to plug the book later, my daughter will get on me about it. So I need to plug this now while it's on my mind. Just finished writing a book. The book is entitled Frederick Douglass Republicans, The Move to Reignite America's Passion for Liberty. And the things I'm going to share with you this morning, of course, because of time, I will not be able to go into detail, but the things I'm going to share with you, they're in the book. And the book is available for your purchase afterwards. The book is actually free, but the autographs inside the book cost you some money. That's what you're paying for. Okay? And we have a discounted price, and we have to provide that to you. As conservative, now I am a conservative, but I am a Frederick Douglass Republican. I am a Frederick Douglass Republican. That is a mantra. That is a turn of phrase God has given me to inspire people to defend liberty. A Frederick Douglass Republican is no different if you call yourself a Reagan conservative, a Reagan Democrat, a Tea Party conservative, a black conservative, or Christian conservative. I am a Frederick Douglass Republican. So when I say that, it gives you a glimpse into my political psyche. I believe in the four life empowering values of Frederick Douglass: respect for the Constitution, respect for life. I believe in limited government, and I believe in personal responsibility. Now, I am a conservative, I don't use the word. If I do use it, I make sure I define it first. Because you got to understand, in the minority communities, this is where we're losing. See, there's two battles taking place in the arena of political debate. You have the battle of ideas. We have the best ideas as conservatives. That's the second battle. The first battle is the battle of propaganda. That's where we're getting whipped. We're losing the battle of propaganda. Okay? So a Frederick Douglass Republican is a person that believes in those four life empowering values. I am a conservative, I don't use the word. Here's why. And I address this in the book. Don't forget now, back in the 1950s and 60s, it was conservative Democrats who did everything they could do to block civil rights legislation. They wrote Jim Crow laws, they wrote segregation laws, they wrote the black codes, and they wanted to hold dear to the principles of their racist fathers. Now, Republicans, we pick up the same word. We have a different meaning, but it's the same word. We want to hold dear to the principles of the founding fathers who wrote the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. We're all been created equal. It's the same word, but it has an entirely different meaning. So when you say that you're conservative, or you're black conservative, you're Christian conservative, you're Reagan conservative, when you address generally minorities, you might as well drop that last word and call yourself a black racist, a Tea Party racist, a Christian racist. It's that word conservative. So if you're going to use the word, make sure you define it first, based on the audience you're addressing. I don't have to define it with you. You know what I'm talking about. But that's one of the things of propaganda, how we're losing. I'm a Frederick Douglass Republican, and anyone can be a Frederick Douglass Republican. It's not about color. It's about values, respect for the Constitution, respect for life, the belief in limited government, and the belief in personal responsibility. That's what this whole thing that God has given me started. It started off as a mantra, it's now turned into a movement. Right now, there's about 6,000 people across the country who are trained in this methodology of being a Frederick Douglass Republican, how to engage. Our goal is by November 2012 to grow that 6,000 members to about 20 million. It is working. This is the answer how to trump the race card. You can't call a Frederick Douglass Republican racist. You can't call a Frederick Douglass Republican Uncle Tom. It trumps the race card. It puts Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton out of business. Puts them out of business for a second.
Can you write down what he's saying, that word? I can't understand the word.
Douglass was the quintessential conservative, based on that definition. Let me share some things with you about Frederick Douglass. Many people don't know because we don't hear him in history much at all. Frederick Douglass was born a slave in 1818 in Maryland. Never owned a pair of shoes until he was 8 years old. Never slept in the bed until he was 10. Homeschooled, self-taught, 0 days of formal schooling. He eventually runs away or escapes from slavery in 1838, became involved in the abolitionist movement. William Lloyd Garrison became his mentor. Fast forward a little bit, Frederick Douglass breaks away from William Lloyd Garrison for 2 reasons primarily. Number one, William Lloyd Garrison believed, and the Garrisonians believed, that the founding fathers gave us slavery in the Constitution because of the 3/5 clause. Douglass believed that at one time. But Douglass did something very interesting. He went back and he read the Constitution. Then Douglass went back and read the founding fathers' convention notes. And when he did that, he had this great epiphany and said, wait a minute, the Constitution is not a pro-slavery document, it is an anti-slavery document, every clause of it. The Constitution says we the people, not we the white people. And if black folks are people, they're included to be benefactors of this Constitution. So said Douglass. In a speech, or it was actually a debate that Douglass was in 1860 in Amsterdam, it was Douglass who gave clarity to the 3/5 clause. I say that because about just over a month ago, Al Sharpton was on Hannity's show, and Al Sharpton made the case that the founding fathers gave us slavery because of the 3/5 clause, saying that blacks are 3/5 of a human being. Douglass said in this debate in 1860, that's not true. That the 3/5 clause was a compromise to limit the congressional representation of the slave states. Douglass gave it clarity. That's why I got being taught. Now, the second reason why Douglass broke away from William Lloyd Garrison is because William Lloyd Garrison was a pacifist. He believed that the best way to end slavery was through moral exhortation. The more you preach about it, the more you talk about it, sooner or later folks going to change. Douglass said no. Douglass said the best way to end slavery is through political action. Here's a connection between Frederick Douglass and the Republican Party. The Republican Party was started in 1854 by Charles Sumner. The Republican Party was started, it had 2 planks in its platform: to abolish slavery and to advance the civil rights of black Americans. 1854. 14 years prior to the establishment of the Republican Party, Douglass was speaking around the country about his experience as a slave and the need to abolish slavery. It was Douglas who declared political war on slavery. Douglas was the face of the abolitionist movement. Abolitionists are the ones who started the Republican Party. Douglas was the catalyst within the abolitionist movement that motivated people, excited people, got them involved politically to end slavery. As a result, a political party was started, the Republican Party. Frederick Douglass was an advisor to Charles Sumner about the establishment of the Republican Party and to end slavery. So that's the relationship, that's our history as Republicans. Frederick Douglass is the key to saving this nation. He is the bridge that we can use to take our conservative message to people who don't look like us, different ethnic groups. Frederick Douglass is the bridge, a self-proclaimed Republican and the quintessential conservative. Frederick Douglass. That's why I call myself a Frederick Douglass Republican. It gives me an opportunity to create an atmosphere for political dialogue without being accused of racism and without being accused of biblical tongue. It works. It works better when you say it than when I say it. See, that's my ethnicity. But when someone that's not of my ethnicity, of my colors, publicly express that they are a Frederick Douglass Republican, that gives you a chance to engage. Race comes off the table. They can't call you a racist. They can't silence your tongue and put you in your conservative closet. It trumps the race card. I get this question asked me a lot. How much time do I have that? Well, I know you're going to pull me off. How much time I got left? I get this question asked me a lot from my conservative white friends, and they say, Keith, you know, or K. Carl, doesn't matter. Well, my first name is Keith. My daughter gave me the market name of K. Carl, so if you were confused, blame it on her. That's why. Anyway, I get this question asked a lot of me. They say, Keith, black people are not gonna accept this from me like they do you. I'm white. They're not gonna listen to me. That's not true. Let me ask you a question. Who established the first diversity outreach program in this world, in a major way? Who established the first diversity outreach program? It was Jehovah God. When he commissioned Paul to take the gospel to the Gentiles. Wait a minute, Paul was a Jew by ethnicity. He was commissioned by God to take the gospel to people of different races, different color. The conservative movement, the Republican Party is primarily made of white Americans. We got to take this message of the life-empowering values of the conservative philosophy to people of different races. Paul had to be trained how to do that. You have to be trained how to do that. I have to be trained how to do it. The way we're going to do it is with the Frederick Douglass Republican methodology. It works. It trumps the race card every single time. Frederick Douglass was an advisor to 5 U.S. presidents. He advised President Abraham Lincoln on signing the Emancipation Proclamation and freed over 4 million blacks from slavery. He was an advisor to Ulysses S. Grant, James Garfield, Rutherford Hayes, and Benjamin Harrison. 0 days of formal schooling. He was an entrepreneur. At the time of his death in 1895, Douglass had amassed $300,000 in savings, which is equivalent to $25 billion today. He was a capitalist. There's a distinct difference between a Frederick Douglass and a President Obama. Big difference. Big difference. Frederick Douglass admired the founding fathers. President Obama abhors the founding fathers. Frederick Douglass respected the Constitution. President Obama rejects the Constitution. Frederick Douglass believed that the purpose of government is to protect us. President Obama believes the purpose of government is to provide for us. Frederick Douglass believed in new wealth creation. President Obama believes in wealth distribution. Frederick Douglass was a capitalist. President Obama was a socialist. Frederick Douglass was a lover of liberty. That's why he escaped. they tried to impose a healthcare system on us that violated our constitutional rights. Two different things. So in order to make Barack Obama one-term president, it's not President Obama against the founding fathers. It's not President Obama against the Constitution. It's President Obama versus Frederick Douglass. And when you do that, when you show that comparison, well, there's no comparison, but when you show that distinction between the two, it is clear. I've been taking this message to the black community now for about 7 months. I've been doing this for 2 years. When I go in the black community, I carry this non-condescending message. My brother and I, we're having over an 85% success rate of turning minority values into conservative votes. Because black Americans are conservative. We just happen to be, I agree with Herman Cain, we just happen to be brainwashed to pass that liberal vote. I talk about that in the book. I was politically brainwashed. As a matter of fact, when God appeared to me in that vision that I articulated in the book, he called me a political schizophrenic. A political schizophrenic is a Christian that votes in a way that's the total opposite of what they believe and they worship. You're mentally crazy. The way that we vote should be an extension of the values that we possess. But all I'm sharing with you, God has blessed me. My brother helped me put this book together. This book is an action handbook for conservatives. It's going to give you the information you need and the confidence you need to engage and share your conservative values with anybody. They can't call you racist. They can't call you Uncle Tom. You are a Frederick Douglass Republican. That's the key to Trump the race card. That's the key of making President Obama one-term president. And that's the key of bringing and reigniting America's passion for liberty. Because if you want to understand what life is like when there's no liberty, read the early life of Frederick Douglass. He wrote 3 autobiographies. And I'll share this with you and I'm going to sit down. When I looked at Douglass's life, and God pushed me that way to understand his life, when I start unveiling the life of Frederick Douglass, I saw 4 major biblical characters in the life of Frederick Douglass. Just like Joseph, who was sold into slavery by his brothers and became the second commander of Egypt, Douglass was born in slavery and was an advisor to 5 U.S. presidents. Just like Moses, who agitated Pharaoh to set the Israelites free, Douglass agitated Lincoln to sign the Emancipation Proclamation that freed 4 million blacks from slavery. Just like the Apostle Paul, who wrote the majority of the New Testament, Douglass wrote 3 autobiographies, penned over 3,000 speeches and editorials that changed politics in America, the 3-5 clause and the value of the Constitution. Just like Jesus, who forgave those that nailed him to the cross, and yes, he died for our salvation, Douglass forgave his slave master and dedicated his life to the liberation of all Americans. It's not about color that makes you a Frederick Douglass Republican, it's about values. So I'm a Frederick Douglass Republican. The book is my sword. My shirt, that's my shield. And when I walk through the bastion of liberalism, I feel like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. I don't get burned. I feel like Daniel is alive to do it. It works. I'm not here to hawk the book or hawk the shirt. It works. And one of the most powerful t-shirts we have, I don't have it with me, but you can get it on the website, has 3 big bold letters on it. It says FDR. It's not who you think. Frederick Douglass Republican. God bless you. Thanks for your time.
Tennessee last week, Alabama this week. Some people have been criticizing that. Tell us, why do you think it's important to be here, and what do you say to some of those critics who've been talking about that schedule?
The reason I'm in Alabama is because in this primary process, Alabama matters because of the changes in the primary schedule with some of the states. Secondly, I don't believe that, like in the past, this nomination process is going to be over with after the first 2 or 3 states. And therefore, states like Alabama, Tennessee, and Arkansas are going to have a much bigger impact on the outcome. Second, the other point is, for those that criticize our strategy, I only ask them to look at the performance we have in the polls. We're not running a traditional campaign strategy. And they don't know what our non-traditional strategy is. So for them to make those criticisms, so be it. But it doesn't cause us to change our strategy. Alabama matters, and it's going to matter more this time around than, say, the last time. And so our plan, which we are continuing to execute, we're going to continue to execute.
Could you expand a little bit on your views in space that you touched on out in the parking lot to the crowd about how you view our role in space coming up?
Yes. Relative to America's role in space exploration, I was disappointed when President Obama decided to cut a significant part of our space program. And here's why. Number one, President John F. Kennedy had the vision to say that by the end of the decade of the 60s, the United States of America would walk on the moon. He inspired this nation to achieve that bold objective. And we did, because of his leadership, because of the entrepreneurial spirit in this country that wanted to make it happen. The companies stepped up to help make it possible because of his vision. And at that point, we took the lead in space exploration. And I happen to believe that the American people would like for us to maintain that lead. And when President Obama decided to significantly cut a major program, it put the United States of America in a position that we as Americans don't like, and that is, Americans do not want to have to thumb a ride into outer space with the Russians, when we were the first ones and we were the leader in space technology. The other thing that I don't believe that this president and this administration understands about the importance of the space program, it's not just about getting into outer space. It's not just about getting to the moon and other planets, no. The space program inspires the development of other technological advancements that we then incorporate into businesses, the economy, and our lives. So in the Kane presidency, that priority will be reversed back to the way it should be. Yes.
I wanted to ask you what you think about Alabama's controversial immigration law.
What do I think about Alabama's controversial immigration law? Well, to me, it's not controversial. Because if I were president, instead of suing Alabama, I would have directed the Justice Department to go and help Alabama enforce the law that you passed. Because I happen to believe that the whole immigration issue is really 4 issues. Securing the border for real, promote the path to citizenship that's already there, enforce the laws that are already there, and 4th, which is the bold idea, empower the states to do what the federal government is not doing. That's what Alabama decided to do. That's what Arizona decided to do. And this administration decided to try and discourage Alabama and Arizona from doing what the federal government is not doing. So in the Kane administration, I would want the Justice Department to help facilitate what you're trying to do or get out of the way.
I was going to say, with these immigration policies that have been put into effect in some of these different states, we found a lot of the agriculture seeing a drop off in the revenue that they've seen because of those workers that aren't there. Beforehand, a lot of people said that Americans needed these jobs and they'd be willing to do those. A lot of those job spots aren't being filled.
That's looking at only a piece of the problem. One of the things that you will always hear from me relative to any issue is work on the right problem. If we solve the problem of illegals coming into this country with an unsecured border, if we clean up the process for people to become legal citizens through the front door, if we make it easier for businesses to enforce the law and to abide by the law with an e-verify system, then that won't be the problem. That's focusing on the simple. So I believe that if we solve the problem the right way, there would be plenty of workers, whether they are U.S. workers or whether they are workers who come here legally.
Last question. A lot of your supporters seem to like you because you're not a political insider and not been in that Washington Beltway. But then some of your critics have said because you've never held elected office, that would be a liability when someone in the most powerful position in the world.
Right.
What do you say to that?
Those are the same critics who say that my strategy is not working. So I would simply say that they might think it's a liability. But of the 8 rallies and meetings we've had here in Alabama in the last 2 days on this bus tour, the voters and the citizens are saying they like the fact that I have not held high public office. And I have gotten the same response all over this country, in every state. So the critics represent what I call conventional wisdom. And the political landscape in this country has changed because of the Kane campaign. And so the critics criticizing me for not having held public office, it doesn't bother me, it doesn't rattle me, and it certainly does not cause us to change our strategy.
Okay, thanks everybody.
Thank y'all very much. It's been a great experience. And like Bill says, I continue to get reporters asking me, why are you in Alabama? And the answer is, why not? But the other part of that answer is, first of all, Alabama matters in this process. The political so-called experts haven't quite connected all of the dots yet. Because of all of the jockeying that's been going on relative to the primary process. Alabama matters because when you hold your primary, I think it's in March, this thing may not be over. And I didn't want to wait until March to come to Alabama and let you know what I stand for. And the other reason that I told the reporters why I'm in Alabama is because they are my neighbors. I'm from Georgia. You're supposed to go and see your neighbors. At least that's the way we do it in the South. You go and visit your neighbors. And then the other reason is there are a lot of great people here, and there are a lot of great patriots here in Alabama. Patriots. Because you see, it's the patriots that have awakened. That's part of this sleeping giant that I call We the People. The We the People voice has awakened. And they have awakened because this nation has been hijacked and we want to take it back. We have become a nation of crises. We have an economic crisis. We have a spending crisis. We have an energy crisis. We have an illegal immigration crisis. We have a moral crisis. We have a foggy foreign policy crisis. And the biggest crisis that we have is a severe deficiency of leadership in the White House.